When you walk a path of purpose, people will talk. Let them. They'll craft stories about your journey, twist your intentions, and question your choices. Why? Because your light makes them uncomfortable. It challenges their shadows. Every rumor they spread, every judgment they cast is a reflection of their insecurities, not your reality. You must rise above it. The truth doesn't require defense, and your success will always speak louder than their words. Today we explore how to let them create stories while you keep writing your legacy. Purpose shakes the world around you. It makes people uncomfortable, unsettled, and unsure because it shines a light on what they lack or fear in themselves. When you're walking in your purpose, you don't just move through life, you disrupt it. You're not going with the flow, you're creating waves. And trust me, waves will always rattle people who are too afraid to leave the shore. But you can't let that stop you. You've got to understand something. People talk because they don't know how to act. They criticize because it's easier than creating. They gossip because it's safer than growing. So when they start making noise, know that it's not a reflection of your flaws, but a reaction to your power. The louder their whispers, the stronger your impact. That's the paradox of purpose. The more aligned you are with who you're meant to be, the more resistance you'll feel. Why? Because purpose exposes mediocrity. When you start chasing something greater, you remind people of everything they've chosen to ignore in their own lives. That makes them uncomfortable. Your discipline makes their excuses obvious. Your ambition highlights their apathy. Your drive magnifies their doubt. And instead of using that discomfort to fuel their growth, many people will try to turn it back on you. They'll create stories to tear you down because it's easier than facing the truth about themselves. But here's the thing, the truth doesn't need defending. It stands on its own. So let them talk. Let them create their stories, because while they're busy trying to pull you back, you're busy moving forward. Have you ever noticed that the most noise always comes from the sidelines? Think about it. The loudest critics are never the ones out there running the race. They're the ones sitting in the stands, watching, commenting, and judging, but never daring to step onto the track themselves. Why? Because it's safe up there. It's easy to point fingers when you're not taking risks. It's easy to criticize when you're not putting yourself on the line, but that's not where you belong. You're not a spectator. You're a player, a runner, a builder, and the noise from the sidelines is just that, noise. It has no power unless you give it power. So don't. Let their whispers fuel your fire, not dim your light. There's a reason people are drawn to those who walk with purpose. It's because purpose is rare. Most people are content to drift through life following the crowd, avoiding discomfort, and settling for less than they're capable of. So when someone like you steps onto the scene with clarity, confidence, and conviction, it shakes them. It reminds them of what they could be but aren't. And instead of being inspired, some will feel threatened. They'll try to drag you back down to their level because your success feels like their failure. But that's not your burden to carry. You can't dim your light to make others feel more comfortable in their darkness. You've got to shine anyway. You've got to keep walking in your purpose, even when it feels lonely, even when it feels heavy, even when it feels unfair. Because your purpose isn't just about you. It's about the lives you're meant to touch, the legacy you're meant to leave, and the difference you're meant to make. Think about a lighthouse. It doesn't argue with the waves crashing against it. It doesn't explain itself to the storm. It just stands tall and shines its light. And in doing so, it guides others safely to shore. That's what purpose looks like. It's steady, unshakable, and unapologetic. And like the lighthouse, you'll face storms. You'll face waves of criticism, doubt, and resistance. But you don't have to fight them. You just have to keep shining, because eventually even the storm will pass, and what will remain is the light. People will always have something to say. They'll question your motives, misunderstand your actions, and misrepresent your character. But you can't live your life trying to please people who don't even understand your journey. Their opinions don't define you, their doubts don't limit you, and their stories don't stop you. You've got to keep your eyes on your purpose, your feet on your path, and your heart in the fight. Because at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is the one you have of yourself. When you lay your head down at night, can you say you gave your all? Can you say you stayed true to who you are? Can you say you walked in your purpose even when it was hard? That's what matters. Purpose isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about waking up every day and choosing to keep going no matter what. It's about staying focused on your vision even when the world tries to distract you. It's about knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone tell you otherwise. And when you walk in that kind of purpose, the noise around you starts to fade. The stories people create about you lose their power. So, because you know the truth, you know your worth, you know your why, and that's all you need to keep moving forward. The truth is, the more you grow, the more resistance you'll face. It's a sign that you're on the right path, so embrace it. Let the resistance refine you. Let the criticism strengthen you. Let the noise remind you that you're doing something worth talking about. Because when you're walking in your purpose, you don't just live, you lead, you inspire, you challenge, and yes, you disrupt. But that's what the world needs. It needs more disruptors, more dreamers, more doers. It needs people like you who aren't afraid to shine, even when it makes others uncomfortable. So keep shining, keep walking in your purpose, and let them create their stories. Because while they're busy talking, you're busy building something that will outlast them all. When people create stories about you, understand it's often less about you and more about them. See, what they're really doing is projecting their insecurities, their fears, and their limitations onto you. They see in you something they can't face within themselves. Maybe it's your strength, your drive, your resilience. Maybe it's the way you keep going even when life tries to knock you down. Whatever it is, it shines a spotlight on the areas in their lives where they've chosen to give up or hold back. And instead of doing the hard work to confront those truths, they choose to deflect. They choose to turn their focus on you, to create stories that make them feel bigger by making you seem smaller. But that's not your burden to carry. You can't control what they say. You can only control how you respond. The truth is, people will always have something to say when they see you growing, when they see you striving for more, when they see you becoming something greater than they ever imagined for you or for themselves. It's not about who you are, it's about who they're not. Your ambition challenges their complacency. Your courage highlights their fear. Your success makes their excuses louder. And instead of being inspired by your journey, instead of letting it push them to do better for themselves, they choose to attack, to gossip, to lie. But don't let that throw you off course. Don't let their stories distract you from your purpose, because at the end of the day, their words are just noise. They don't change your path, your goals, or your destiny unless you let them. When people don't understand you, they'll make up their own version of who they think you are. They'll piece together fragments of your life, half-truths, assumptions, and misunderstandings, and build a narrative that fits their perspective. But remember this, their version of you isn't your responsibility. You don't owe anyone an explanation for who you are or why you do what you do. Your job is to stay focused on your vision, to keep pushing forward, to keep growing. Let them create their stories. Because the truth always has a way of revealing itself in time, and when it does, you'll be too far ahead to even notice the noise they made in the first place. It's easy to get caught up in the opinions of others. It's easy to feel like you need to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, to set the record straight. But here's the thing, when you spend all your time and energy fighting against their stories, you're giving them power. You're letting them dictate your focus, your actions, your peace. Don't fall into that trap. Your energy is too valuable to waste on people who are determined to misunderstand you. Use that energy to build your dream, to pursue your goals, to walk in your purpose. Because the best response to lies, to gossip, to criticism is success. When you're living your truth, when you're achieving your goals, when you're thriving, their stories lose all their power. People are always watching, whether they admit it or not. Even the ones who criticize you, the ones who doubt you, the ones who talk behind your back, they're watching. They're paying attention to how you carry yourself, how you handle adversity, how you respond to the noise. And every time you choose grace over anger, purpose over distraction, growth over pettiness, you're showing them who you really are. You're showing them strength, resilience, and integrity. And whether they admit it or not, that leaves an impression. That speaks louder than any story they could ever create about you. You don't have to defend yourself against lies. You don't have to argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because at the end of the day, the truth doesn't need defending. It stands on its own. And your life, your actions, your character, that's the truth. That's what speaks for you. So let them create their stories. Let them say what they want to say. Because while they're busy talking, you're busy building. You're busy becoming. And one day they'll look back and realize that the stories they told about you said more about them than they ever did about you. Silence is powerful. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when to speak and when to let your actions do the talking. It's understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, not every critic is worth addressing, not every story needs a response. When you stay silent in the face of noise, you're showing strength, you're showing focus, you're showing that you're too busy living your life to worry about what other people are saying. And that kind of silence, it speaks volumes. It says, I know who I am, I know what I'm about, and I don't need your approval to keep moving forward. So let them create their stories, let them talk, let them doubt, let them judge. Because while they're busy with their words, you're busy with your work. You're busy building a life that doesn't just prove them wrong, but goes beyond their understanding. And that's the real power. Not in defending yourself, not in fighting back, but in showing through your actions that their stories don't define you. Only you define you. And as long as you're living in alignment with your truth, as long as you're walking in your purpose, nothing they say can hold you back. There's something powerful about knowing your worth, about carrying yourself with the unshakable understanding that you are valuable, no matter what others think, say, or do. When people create stories about you, when they attempt to diminish you with their words or paint you in a way that aligns with their agenda, it's often a reflection of their inability to comprehend your life. People notice the way you walk, the way you move through life, and it stirs something inside them. But not everyone is ready to embrace that reflection. Instead, they project their discomfort back onto you. That's why standing firm in your worth is not just important, it's essential. When you know your worth, you stop seeking validation from others. You stop chasing the approval of people who wouldn't know how to handle the real you if they had the chance. That's the thing. Most people don't criticize you because of who you are. They criticize you because of who they are. They can't see beyond their insecurities. They can't accept that your strength, your potential, and your ambition are not a threat, but an inspiration. But when you don't know your worth, it's easy to let those criticisms seep into your mind, to let them take root and grow like weeds. You start doubting yourself, questioning your decisions, and wondering if maybe they're right. But they're not. You know they're not. And deep down, you've always known. When people tell stories about you, when they make up lies or twist the truth, it's a test. A test of your confidence, your resilience, your ability to stay focused on what really matters. And the only way to pass that test is to hold your head high and keep walking. Keep moving forward with the knowledge that your value is not determined by what others say about you. Your worth is not negotiable. It's not up for debate. It's not something that can be taken away by whispers or rumors. It's yours, and it always has been. Knowing your worth means you stop allowing people to treat you in ways that don't align with your value. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop giving chances to people who don't deserve them. And let me tell you something. When you start setting those boundaries, people will notice. They'll notice because they can no longer control you. They can no longer manipulate you or take advantage of your kindness. And that scares them. It scares them because they realize they've lost access to your energy, your time, your presence. But their fear is not your problem. Your only job is to protect your peace and preserve your power. Here's the truth. When you know your worth, you start attracting different kinds of people into your life. People who respect you, who uplift you, who recognize the value you bring to the table. But more importantly, you repel the people who can't handle your light. The ones who thrive on drama, on toxicity, on pulling others down so they can feel higher. Those people will fall away. They'll try to hold on, of course. They'll try to pull you back into their chaos, into their noise. But when you're rooted in your worth, their attempts don't work. They can't penetrate the armor of self-respect you've built around yourself. Knowing your worth also means understanding that not everyone will understand your journey, and that's okay. They're not supposed to. Your path is yours alone. It's not meant to make sense to everyone else. Some people will criticize you simply because they don't have the courage to walk their own path. They'll see you taking risks, making moves, stepping out of your comfort zone, and it'll make them uncomfortable because your courage shines a light on their fear. Your progress highlights their stagnation. And instead of using that discomfort as motivation to change, they'll direct it toward you. But their opinions have no power unless you give it to them. And when you know your worth, you don't. When you know your worth, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to convince people of your value, of your intentions, of your heart. Because the right people won't need convincing. They'll see you for who you are, and they'll appreciate you for it. And the wrong people, well, they were never going to see you clearly, no matter what you did. That's the thing about knowing your worth. It sets you free from the need to prove anything to anyone. You're no longer seeking external validation because you've already validated yourself. There's a peace that comes with knowing your worth, a peace that can't be shaken by gossip or criticism or judgment. Because when you know your worth, you realize that the stories people create about you are just that. Stories. They're not the truth. They're not reality. They're a reflection of someone else's perspective, someone else's limitations, someone else's insecurities. And you don't have to accept those stories. You don't have to internalize them. You don't have to let them dictate how you see yourself or how you live your life. You are not defined by the stories others tell about you. You are defined by how you respond, by how you rise above, by how you keep moving forward with grace and strength and integrity. Knowing your worth means standing tall in the face of adversity, in the face of criticism, in the face of lies. It means refusing to let anyone dim your light or steal your joy. It means walking with confidence, with purpose, with the unshakable belief that you are enough, just as you are. And let me tell you, when you know your worth, when you truly own it, there's nothing anyone can do to take that away from you. Their words, their actions, their stories, they all lose their power because your worth is not up for negotiation. It's not something they gave you, so it's not something they can take away. It's yours. It's always been yours. And when you own that, when you live in that truth, there's nothing you can't accomplish, nothing you can't overcome, nothing you can't become. When you live your life authentically, when you carry yourself with purpose, something extraordinary happens. The world responds. You don't have to scream for attention, beg for recognition, or force anyone to notice you. Your energy, your presence, and your actions speak louder than anything you could ever say. People watch, they observe, they take note, and while some will admire you and respect the way you live, there will always be those who can't handle it. They'll create stories, distort the truth, and try to paint you in a way that suits their narrative. But here's the thing, they don't define you. Their words don't shape your identity, and their opinions don't hold the weight you think they do. The people who create stories about you are often the ones struggling the most with their own identity. They look at you and see something they're missing, something they want but don't know how to achieve. It's not your fault, but it becomes their obsession. They twist your actions, your words, and even your silence into something it's not. They need to make you smaller in their minds because the truth of your power, your confidence, and your authenticity makes them uncomfortable. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You're not here to fit into someone else's story. You're here to write your own, to live boldly, to walk a path that's unapologetically yours. When people start creating stories about you, it's not because you've done something wrong, it's because you've done something right. You've disrupted their comfort zone. You've challenged their expectations. You've shown them what it looks like to live with intention. And that's a hard thing for some people to witness because when they see you thriving, when they see you owning who you are, it forces them to confront their own choices, their own fears, their own lack of action. It's easier for them to deflect, to point fingers, to criticize, than it is for them to face themselves. And that's why they create stories. Not because of who you are, but because of who they're not. When you know who you are, those stories lose their power. You stop reacting to the noise, the gossip, the lies. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand you in the first place. And let me tell you, there's a freedom in that. There's a peace that comes with knowing you don't have to defend your character to anyone. The truth doesn't need defending. The truth stands on its own, solid and unshakable. And when you live in your truth, the people who matter will see it, they'll feel it, they'll recognize it. And the people who can't handle it, well, they'll just have to deal with their own discomfort. The stories people create about you are often more about them than they are about you. They reveal their insecurities, their fears, their need for control. They want to dictate the narrative, to control how others see you, but they can't control the truth. They can't change who you are at your core. And that's why it's so important to stay grounded in your identity, to stay rooted in your purpose. Because when you know who you are, you become untouchable. Their words can't shake you. Their lies can't break you. Their attempts to diminish you only highlight their own smallness. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to address every rumor, every criticism, every falsehood. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. Silence is powerful. Silence speaks volumes. It says, I know my worth, I know my truth, and I don't need to justify myself to anyone. When you refuse to engage with the negativity, you rob it of its power. You shift the focus back to where it belongs, on your goals, your vision, your growth. And that's where your energy should be, not on the distractions, but on the direction you're heading. People will always have something to say. That's just the way of the world. But what they say doesn't define you. How you respond does. And the best response is often to keep moving forward, to keep shining, to keep doing what you do best. Because nothing frustrates those who create stories about you more than seeing you thrive despite their efforts to tear you down. Nothing confuses them more than your ability to rise above, to remain unbothered, to continue living your life with grace and purpose. They expect you to crumble. They expect you to react. They expect you to stoop to their level. But when you don't, when you rise above, it shows them and the world just how strong you really are. Your strength isn't just in your ability to endure. It's in your ability to excel, to overcome, to transform. The stories they create about you are distractions, noise meant to pull you off course. But you don't have to listen. You don't have to engage. You have the power to stay focused, to stay committed, to stay true to who you are. And when you do, those stories fade into the background, insignificant and irrelevant. They don't hold weight because your actions speak louder than their words ever could. Let them create their stories. Let them talk. Let them speculate. While they're busy spinning their narratives, you'll be busy building your legacy. You'll be busy chasing your dreams, fulfilling your purpose, and living a life that's authentic and meaningful. And in the end, that's what matters. Not the stories they tell, but the story you live. Not the opinions of others, but the truth of who you are. And that truth, it's more powerful than any story they could ever create. There is a quiet power in moving forward while the world tries to hold you back. There is strength in carrying yourself with grace when others are trying to drag you into chaos. You see, in life, people will test you. They will provoke you, challenge you, and even try to break you. Not because of what you've done wrong, but because of what you're doing right. They see something in you, an energy, a light, a purpose, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they try to disrupt it. They'll throw negativity your way, create conflict, and hope that you lose focus. But your power lies in your ability to rise above it all, to keep walking your path without giving them the reaction they crave. You must understand, not everyone is going to support you. Not everyone is going to celebrate your victories or cheer you on. That's just the reality of life. And it's not always personal. Sometimes people's inability to clap for you is rooted in their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own lack of direction. But you can't let their issues become your distraction. You can't let their noise drown out your purpose. Because your purpose, it's bigger than their opinions, their judgments, their criticisms. Your purpose is yours to fulfill, and no one can take that from you unless you let them. It's easy to get caught up in the drama, to feel the need to defend yourself, to want to prove people wrong. But let me tell you something. The best way to prove people wrong is not with words, but with actions. It's not with arguments, but with results. When you stay focused on your goals, when you keep pushing forward despite the obstacles, when you continue to grow and thrive, that's when you show them who you really are. That's when you make it clear that their attempts to hold you back are futile, because you are unstoppable, you are unshakable, and you are destined for greatness. The moment you stop giving energy to the negativity is the moment you take your power back. It's the moment you shift the focus from what they're saying to what you're doing. And that shift, it's everything. It's the difference between being reactive and being proactive. Between being controlled by the opinions of others and being guided by your own vision. Between living a life that's dictated by external forces and living a life that's driven by internal purpose. That's the power of focus, that's the power of discipline, and that's the power of knowing who you are and what you're here to do. When you focus on your growth, your purpose, your vision, something incredible happens. The things that once bothered you, the words that once hurt you, the opinions that once weighed you down, they start to lose their hold on you. They become background noise, insignificant and unimportant. Because you realize that your value doesn't come from what others think of you. It comes from what you think of yourself. It comes from how you live, how you love, how you contribute to the world. And when you live with that kind of clarity, that kind of purpose, there's no stopping you. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You don't have to explain yourself to people who don't understand you. You don't have to seek validation from those who are incapable of giving it. Your worth is not up for debate. It's not something that can be taken away or diminished. It's inherent. It's unchangeable. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can stop worrying about what others think and start focusing on what really matters. Living your life with purpose, passion, and integrity. People will always have something to say. They'll criticize you for what you do, for what you don't do, for how you live, for the choices you make. But their opinions are not your business. Your business is your growth, your happiness, your journey. Your business is becoming the best version of yourself. Not for them, but for you. And when you focus on that, when you make that your priority, everything else falls into place. The negativity fades, the distractions disappear, and you're left with a clear path forward. Let them talk, let them judge, let them misunderstand you. None of that defines you. What defines you is how you respond, how you rise, how you keep moving forward despite it all. And the best response is success. The best response is happiness. The best response is living a life that's so full, so rich, so authentic that their words don't even register. Because at the end of the day, their opinions are just that. Opinions. And opinions have no power over you unless you give it to them. You are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you realize. And you have everything you need to rise above the negativity, to overcome the challenges, to silence the noise. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because when you stay true to yourself, when you stay focused on your path, when you refuse to let the negativity derail you, you become unstoppable. You become a force to be reckoned with. And that's something no one can take away from you. There comes a time in life when you realize that you don't have to attend every battle you're invited to. Not every fight is worth your energy. Not every war deserves your presence. Your life is too valuable to be spent trying to prove yourself to people who will never see you for who you truly are. You don't need to explain, justify, or defend your choices to anyone who is determined to misunderstand you. When you know who you are, when you're rooted in your purpose, when you've done the work to build yourself up, you understand that your time and your energy are sacred, and giving those precious resources away to people who don't value them, that's a price too high to pay. You see, your absence can be louder than your words. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to step back, to remove yourself from the equation, to leave people to deal with the absence of your presence. Because your presence is not just about your physical being, it's about your energy, your light, your love, your contribution. And when that's taken away, people start to notice. They start to feel the void, the emptiness, the silence that comes with your departure. In that silence, it speaks volumes. It teaches lessons that your words never could. When you take a step back, you give people the opportunity to reflect on their actions, on how they treated you, on what they lost. And that reflection can be a powerful thing. It's not about revenge. It's not about making them feel guilty. It's about creating space for growth, for understanding, for change. Sometimes people can't see the value of what they have until it's gone. They can't appreciate your presence until they're faced with your absence. And in that absence, they begin to see things more clearly. They begin to understand what they took for granted, what they overlooked, what they dismissed. But this isn't just about them. It's about you too. It's about reclaiming your power, your time, your peace. It's about setting boundaries and honoring them. It's about choosing yourself, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it means walking away from people and situations you once cared deeply about. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own happiness, your own growth, your own well-being. And if staying in a certain place or with certain people is hindering that, then you owe it to yourself to leave. Walking away is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign that you value yourself enough to protect your peace, your energy, your spirit. It's a sign that you're willing to let go of what no longer serves you in order to make room for what does. And that takes courage. It takes faith. It takes a deep understanding of your worth and your purpose. Because when you walk away, you're not just leaving something behind, you're stepping into something greater. You're opening yourself up to new possibilities, new opportunities, new blessings. And that's something to be proud of. Your absence can also serve as a mirror. It reflects back to people the reality of their actions, their choices, their behavior. It forces them to confront the consequences of how they treated you. And that confrontation can be uncomfortable, even painful. But it's necessary. It's how growth happens, how change begins, how lessons are learned. By removing yourself from situations that no longer serve you, you're not only protecting your own peace, you're also creating an opportunity for others to grow and evolve. But don't get it twisted. Your absence is not about punishing others. It's not about making them feel bad or proving a point. It's about prioritizing yourself, your needs, your goals. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup, that you can't give your best to others if you're constantly drained, depleted, and unappreciated. It's about understanding that you deserve to be in spaces where you're celebrated, not tolerated, where you're valued, not used, where you're respected, not dismissed. And if those spaces don't exist, then you have the power to create them. Your absence is a boundary. It's a declaration of your worth, a statement of your values, a commitment to your growth. It's a way of saying, I deserve better, and I'm not afraid to demand it. And that's a powerful thing, because when you set that standard for yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You show them what self-respect looks like, what self-love feels like, what self-worth means. And in doing so, you create a ripple effect that can change not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Remember, you're not just anyone. You're someone who carries a light, a purpose, a gift. And not everyone will understand or appreciate that, but that's okay, because your worth is not determined by their understanding or their appreciation. Your worth is inherent, it's unshakable. And when you operate from that place of knowing, when you carry yourself with that level of confidence and clarity, nothing and no one can dim your light. Your presence becomes a gift and your absence becomes a lesson. Both have value, both have power, and both are yours to give or withhold as you see fit.